Greetings, my wonderful students. Today we learn about South and Southeast Asia. As you can see here, we have a map of India and Pakistan. Now, India is considered South Asia, as you can see right here. Southwest would be the Middle East, and of course, Southeast, we're looking at Laos and Cambodia, etc. Now, there is an issue between Pakistan and India. They have disagreements over Kashmir and Jammu, and these are different provinces that both countries claim are theirs. So let's get into it. Now, after World War II, Britain was unable to hold on to its colonies, and Mahatma Gandhi led the overall Indian independence movement. His policy of passive resistance, or civil disobedience, helped India to gain international sympathy for its independence movement. Now, India had a significant Muslim minority. A large number of people who lived in India were Muslims, but they were outnumbered by far by the Hindus who lived there. So when India gained its independence, the country of India split into two countries, India and Pakistan. India still has problems with unity today because of its religious and ethnic diversity. So what happened was large numbers of Muslims migrated from India, what's today India, into what is today Pakistan. And many Hindus who lived in what is today Pakistan migrated to India. Now, since the division of India, the two countries have had friction with each other. One source of friction is the province of Kashmir, which both claim to be theirs. Both governments tested nuclear weapons in the 1990s, and some fear the possibility of a nuclear conflict if tensions escalate. So, there are certain areas of the world that we call flashpoints. These are places on the planet where potential for conflict or war can erupt. This border between India and Pakistan is considered one of those possible flashpoints for conflict. Now, the economy. India, as a colony, had relied on selling Britain raw materials such as cotton. Many former colonies, not just India, but many other colonies, still sell these cash crops to their former mother countries. Now, the reliance on cash crops causes their economies to be unstable. If your entire country's economy relies on selling cotton, and the price of cotton goes down, then your government's not going to make as much money, and you're going to have economic problems and have a difficult time providing services for your people. And not only that, individuals in various companies in your country will probably have to be laid off. And the same thing's true if your country relies on the sale of just chocolate or the sale of diamonds, even if the price of diamonds crash. All of these create an effect. So these former colonies, many of them find it difficult to change their economies due to a lack of money. If everything's already been set up for you to grow cotton, then it makes sense once you've achieved independence to continue to grow cotton. If you want to do something else, then you have to have a bunch of money to build a factory, to build new roads, to get new equipment, to farm different crops. All of these can create an issue. The government. Now, India has a democratic government with a prime minister and a parliament. India has practiced a policy of non-alignment, or not taking sides in the Cold War. They didn't want to get involved in the issues between the United States and the Soviet Union. They were the first of the non-aligned countries. Pakistan came under the rule of a military dictator, and Pakistan supported the West in the Cold War, which some of you might find odd because the West is supposed to support democracy. But one of the big things that the United States and Western Europe did was, because we were concerned about the spread of communism, we supported anyone who would support us against the communists. And that included, in many occasions, us supporting dictators as long as they were anti-communist. The Green Revolution. Now, in an attempt to end hunger in poor countries, the West, the United States, Britain, France, etc., gave India and other countries modern farming technology. The population exploded in India. So what you can see here in this graph is the impact of the Green Revolution. Now, the dotted line is grain imports. How much grain, think like wheat and corn, etc., that they had to buy in order to feed their people. And then here's their grain production. Now, you'll notice in the 1960s we see a slight increase and then a slight decrease, but overall we see a pretty big trend upward. And this is the result of modern farm seeds, modern farm fertilizer, and modern farm equipment, all causing the food production to be able to grow. Well, when the food production grew, But when you have more food, you're going to have more people, and the population exploded in India. The increase in population has been faster than the increase in food production, and hunger still exists there. And remember, that was something that Thomas Malthus had said was a possible problem, was that if the population grows faster than the food production, then you're going to have issues with starvation, because you won't be able to grow enough food to feed the entire people. And well, that was an issue here in India. India is the second most populated country in the world, with also over 1 billion people. So if you rank the countries as they go, the most populated country in the world is China. The second most populated country in the world is India. And the third is the United States. And the United States has at this time of this recording, 320 million people in the country. And China has 1,300 million people. So even though we're third, we're still quite a ways down from the first two. Modernization. Now, when countries modernize, it usually weakens their traditional culture. People don't do things the same way today that they did 100 years ago. And as you change people from a farming way of life to more of a factory and an urban way of life, it changes their culture. This has happened in India with the caste system. However, discrimination still exists based on caste. So the original caste system basically said what jobs you could and could not have. But once you add factory and modern production techniques, you really can't hold on to that system. However, if people had found out what caste you were in India, they might discriminate against you based on that caste in the way some people discriminate on the basis of race or other things, which is what this political cartoon is talking about here in the UN Conference on Racism. And it says, what about the issue of the caste system in India? Untouchable. And I hope you get that joke. Islamic fundamentalism. Recently, Pakistan has had problems with Islamic fundamentalists. Now, Islamic fundamentalists want to make the nation more religious and impose strict religious laws based on their religion. Some of those fundamentalists are militant, meaning that they are willing to use violence to achieve their goals. And you may not realize this, but Osama bin Laden was actually hiding in Pakistan when he was eventually caught, which means that some of the Islamic fundamentalists in Pakistan had helped hide him in the bunker compound where we eventually found him. So that is an issue, and some of those people support terrorism. Now, Indochina. Indochina is that peninsula between India and China. Before World War II, Vietnam and Cambodia, which are on the Indo-Chinese peninsula, had been French colonies. And after World War II, nationalist movements began to gain power in these areas, and they wanted to gain independence. In Vietnam, the leader of the nationalist movement was the communist Ho Chi Minh. And of course, you recall the United States is very much against communism, so the U.S. did not want communism to spread in Vietnam, containment, so we got involved in stopping communism from spreading from North Vietnam to South Vietnam. The U.S. lost the Vietnam War. When we pulled the troops out, the North Vietnamese took control of South Vietnam, and it is a single country today, Vietnam. Cambodia. Now, Cambodia was a supply route for the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. And the United States bombed Cambodia to hurt the Viet Cong. And when the U.S. left Cambodia, a violent communist group called Khmer Rouge came to power. Rouge meaning red, remember it's French, and red is of course the color of communism. Now, Pol Pot, the leader of Khmer Rouge, began a reign of terror in Cambodia. Anyone suspected of being allied with the West was slaughtered. Yes, this is an image of those are human bones, and this was called the Killing Fields. They even made a Hollywood movie about it too. But basically, the Pol Pot's version of communism wasn't the modern 5-year plan Soviet style of communism. His was one where he wanted to turn the clock back and make the whole country agricultural. So they literally were killing people who had more than an 8th grade education, or if they spoke more than a couple of languages, or even if they wore glasses in some cases. They were slaughtered for just that, for not conforming to Pol Pot's idea of how Cambodia should be. And over 1 million Cambodians were killed in this process. And that is the end of this slideshow.